And David, you talked about don't be thinking sequentially anymore. One of the questions that we received was, what kind of activities can we put together to shorten tech transfer timelines that potentially that we haven't done in the past?
Yeah, and it's an excellent question. And again, there's a trade-off because working through sequentially, traditionally, we've made sure that everything was ready to go to the next step and everything had been signed off, the I's dotted, T's crossed, et cetera. But what we've learned is that you can identify various steps, and you can begin before you have finalized and even know if you have a product. You can begin to put in place the various process development manufacturing steps and all based on various assumptions and what you're learning along the way. You just have to be flexible because you may have to fine tune it as you keep going. We've seen through the vaccine experience, whereas traditionally one would not go into clinical testing until one had fully completed through non-human primate and fully understood the data. Instead, we've seen people go ahead and started a process in a more simultaneous manner or in a parallel manner, realizing that there may be some costs that are wasted there in some sense, but we'll get there a lot faster because what we've tried to do with vaccines is we've tried to reduce what typically takes 10 to 15 years into a year and a half. This has been incredible. I mean, the fastest we've ever seen development, at least clinical development even of a vaccine, was the 4 years that went with the Merck Ebola vaccine. But when you think of full development starting last January, and here we are now at the brink of starting to vaccinate people, and people are producing, millions and tens of millions and all, and hundreds of millions of doses already, or at least in the activity, then what we've learned is that there are many, many of these steps that we can legitimately address in parallel, rather than waiting until we are absolutely certain that we did everything right. And we have to be willing to think in that manner going forward. And I think that's a lesson to be learned, not just because we're this time dealing with a pandemic, but regardless of what if you're in small molecule or biological molecule, not just vaccines, but in a number of ways, we can learn from this and move things along much faster and still be highly successful and be able to, in the long run, have something on the market sooner.